Hi. So this is ArtCat. I am now live on, hopefully, fingers crossed, Twitch, YouTube and Facebook. And it's taken me a while to get it all set up into all those three different formats and places. I'm going to be doing a bit of painting today. I'm just going to carry on working. Normally I do a art podcast on a Saturday at 2 o'clock UK time. That's live over on YouTube. And I decided to try and bring all these platforms together and do it in one place. So this is a little bit of a test. So I'm just going to carry on painting. If you want to drop by, say hello, jump in the chat room and start typing. I'll be able to see what you're doing. And we can have an art chat. So there's no arty topic off the table. You can talk about absolutely anything you want to. If you've got any questions, ask away. And yeah, I'm going to stick up I've got a little iPad over here in the corner, so I can have a quick dookie at the other platforms like YouTube. This is going live through Twitch at the moment. So when you come in, you're quite welcome to join the chat room. Say hello, tell me where you're from, tell me if you're working on anything yourself art-wise. I'll tell you what I'm doing in a minute myself. I'm working on this portrait as part of a series of portraits that I started about 2.5 years ago, and I've kind of set aside. And it's kind of sat with me for a while, and a few things were bothering me about it. One is quality of my painting. I needed to improve. Oh, Ethan's in. Hi Ethan, how are you doing, mate? It's my son. That's family support for you. I was watching his Twitch stream yesterday. I can't remember, what was the game you were playing on there? You're good. Good. Always good to hear. So I'm just going to work on these hands. I'm going to repaint them. My quality painting's got better because I've been practicing a few different techniques. So I've got to a stage now where I'd like to kind of revisit some of the work I was working on and get these portraits done and finished. You were playing RimWorld. It was like a sim thing where you were like playing God with people and all sorts of stuff was going on. It was interesting. It was quite hypnotic. I was just watching him play this game online. Yeah, it was fun. It's nice just to kind of just hear your voice as well. You know, for people who don't know, Ethan's over in Holland and I'm based in Northern Ireland. So we haven't been able to get to see each other at all this year, and so I missed you at Christmas. Cry. But hopefully, you know, when lockdowns are over and vaccines are on the way, we get to sort of get back together again. Yeah, I miss you too. But we're here together, which is quite nice. So yeah, I'm going to work on these hands. What I've done, I've kind of painted loosely the hands in before, and I just wasn't happy with the position of them. Looked a bit kind of stiff. So these aren't the hands of this lady. This is a friend of mine called Carly. I got Andrea to put her hands in the position I actually wanted the hands to be in. Photographed them. I'm going to use kind of her hands as a source of inspiration to repaint these hands again. So I've got this up on my don't know if you can see it if I just spin that around a little bit. I've got this up so I can see them, just so I've got something to work from. I'll tweak a little bit because of things like light. Light's going to be different in this picture as opposed to this one, but the form is what I'm looking at. So one of the flexibilities, I'm working in oils. So you can see down here, I've got my palette all laid out, and I've got this, you know, like a little nest of tables you can get in charity shops and things. And I've found that these are great in the studio because normally I have like lots of boxes open, like pencils and different like charcoals and things open when I'm working on a drawing, and they were great to kind of have out. I didn't realise, because I've got a toughened safety glass on the top which lifts up and had like this really crappy leatherette fake stuff underneath, I just slipped in a piece of grey paper. Grey paper is really good because it's a mid-tone. It's not like a white base which makes colours look even brighter than they are. It's not too dark where, say if you're working on a palette, specifically dark wooden palettes, sometimes you're mixing up colours and you can't quite see what the colour is. Working on a mid-tone grey is really good because it really pumps up the colour. Gives you a really nice balanced view of it. So that's what I'm working on. It's really easy to wipe down. I've got my colours set out around the side, going from my whites into my browns and reds and blues. Another blue just hiding behind my oil solution. Basically I've got a thing called Zest It. Wait, just grab that. Rather than terps, don't ever use terps. This stuff called Zest It. It's low odorless as well, so it's not that kind of harsh, smelly stuff. And I have a little bit of linseed oil, and so I've got just a Zest It in one of them, and a little tiny bit of linseed oil and Zest It mixed together in this one. It just makes a nice painty medium to mix with yours if you want a more flow to it. But at the minute I'm just working out the structure of these hands, trying to find out where they are. Now, as you can see, it's quite a surreal little image. Carly is wearing a suit of armour and holding an orangutan who's holding a baby orangutan. Zoom in, you'll be able to see some details. There is a whole story behind this. Basically, this is a range of work. There we are. I'll try and get you a closer zoom. Hopefully it'll focus on my hand. There we go. There. It's loosely painted at the minute. There's not much detail in it. But this is a range of work based on the people I know, conversations that we've had. And I spent a good few months going around about 27 of my friends, not all of them, but 27 of my friends. Ethan's included in this as well, and Callan and Andrea. Andrea's my partner, and Callan's her son. So it's friends and family. And we sat down, just had a conversation, and all of the portraits are based on that conversation. The only thing I wanted to capture from them was what type of animal would they want to be. If they were an animal, what best described them. So they all came up with their different animals, and I've integrated those animals into the portraits. And Carlos was an orangutan. There is a reason for all of this. And then I would go away and base my portrait on that conversation. So it's quite a personal response. It's tried to capture the person's likeness as much as possible. I did take photo references of people on the day, but you know, Carly wasn't wearing a suit of armour that day, and she wasn't carrying a small orangutan. So I put all these together in the composition, figured that all out in sketchbooks and things, did some research, even down to the armour that she's wearing. Went around and looked at lots of different types of armour, things I might like to sort of incorporate into the composition, and then started painting them. I've got a couple of them. The one behind me is kind of finished and done. There's one of another friend, Julie, which got to a similar stage, and I just wasn't quite happy with my quality of painting. I thought I needed to train a bit myself, learn a few different techniques, change my working method, and I've got through that kind of stage now, and I'm going back to the painting and getting them done. So I'm just revisiting, but this has always kind of bugged me that the hands weren't quite right, and obviously the colours I need to change around a little bit, and the qualities of the details. So this, if I zoom out, was kind of a stage. It was that, but there was no black or dark in the background. It was like a very sort of burnt umber colour. It was quite sketchy painting, and now I'm starting to fill it in basically. So I'm going to carry on and do that. If you've got any questions on it, you're more than welcome to just start typing, jump in, let me know what it is you want to know. I'll try and make that as clear as possible for you. You're trying to learn how to do armour digitally at the moment. Any tips on rendering out metal? Yeah, I looked at I went and researched it, and I don't know if you remember, Ethan, we went around the Game of Thrones exhibition when it was on in Northern Ireland. I took lots of photographs of the different types of armour. I wore lots of armour. I did some extra work on it as well, and noticed how when you think of armour you think shiny, and everything has to be like white, and it isn't. Generally, it absorbs the reflections of whatever is around the person wearing the armor. But there was also a quality of armor. It's like blue steel, not the look blue steel, but there's actually an armor plate called blue steel, and it's quite decorative as well. And it's to think about the forms of each individual part and how light is hitting it. So if you've got a particular light source, where is that light source coming from? Whereabouts on that three-dimensional shape is it going to hit? Because that's going to be your lightest area, but the rest has to follow the folds and shapes of that particular piece of armor. So this has a particular curve to it, and it's rounded over the shoulder area, but it comes around this way. So you've got to think about it, whatever you're doing in 3 dimensions, and how it moves. I was just giving you pointing at the painting, and you can't quite see it. So I was talking about this bit up here. So this has a little bit of a curve. This is a convex shape, and it's also convex shape around this way, but not as much. And it goes back in. You can see where the shadows are. So basically, what I did first was do a bit of an underpainting. What they call it's not really grisaille, but it's a bit of like a monochrome style painting where I'm just working out shadows and form. Once I've got those in, I can start introducing the colour. So you can decide on whatever colour type you want your armour to be, for like shiny metal, or is it all rusty, crusty type of armour with dings and scratches in it. I wanted a particular kind of blue steely kind of effect. So you start to notice lots of different colours in the steel, rather than just thinking, oh, it's blue steel, everything must be blue, or shiny, everything must be shiny. You start to notice the subtle changes in colour. So the blue steel, as it goes into the shadows, goes quite brown and quite dark, and there's more dark in the armour itself than there is, you'd think, the highlights, the big kind of shiny highlights. I've got things like this, which is like a riveted edge, which comes out and down, but I can't put the highlight on the top here because the light is coming more from this direction. So I'd say this part would capture the biggest part of the light, as will the shoulder. So as this curves down this way, it'll get naturally darker. But I'm not going to go from white to dark. I've got to think about the colour it is. So it's blue steel, and as it goes into the shadows, it gets a little bit more browny. So I only found that out by going and having a look at different types of armour. So I'd say if you're ever trying to figure out what it is you want to try and render or draw or paint, go and look at your resource. Try and see what colours, or just do a colour study first of what colours you're looking at. You can get some great apps on your phone as well, where it's like a colour picker, and it'll pick out colours, and then it gives you the code number of what that colour is, and then you can pop that into your, if you're working digitally, that colour into your palette, and it'll pick that colour out for you direct. And then it's easy, just a bit like do an ink blot test, the pipette thing. Just pick up the colour and start using that. So do your research first, and it should work. Oh, Adobe has something like that, doesn't it? I think so. Yeah. So if you could import a picture of a piece of armor that you particularly like, and you could pick up the palette of colors that you want, and then have that palette there ready, and you don't have to try and guess what color to use on your armor, if that makes sense. So whatever it is you're working on, whether it's somebody's face, because one of the worst things that I've seen is flesh colored paint, and I don't know what color flesh is. Because it's all different types of colours. If you have a look at my face on the screen, it's where the light's hitting it on there is really white, and as it goes around here, it's quite reddish pink. It's almost orange on my cheek because there's a weird colour setting going on. It's very orange there on my nose. This part of my beard is kind of a really crimson, red, and brown and umber. And where it's gone grey. I haven't got a two-tone beard, it's just where the shadow of the microphone's hitting it. So what I'm saying is every face is different colours, and there isn't a range of colours that you can only use for faces, and flesh tint doesn't exist because we're all different shades and tones in different lights. I mean, my arms are quite brown, but my legs are pure white. So I'm not one colour, and neither is anybody else. And flesh tint, as I said, doesn't exist. Might be a good base colour to then play around with and add some blues or some reds to it, or play around with it like that. or oranges. But don't get sucked into thinking flesh colour is pink, because it's not. Again, the multi-ethnic ethnicities, and they're not one colour either. So play around, pick out your palette, do a little bit of experimentation, build up your confidence with the colours so you know what the colours are going to be. Then you don't have to worry about them when you're doing the painting of the person. If that makes sense. So I'm going to get stuck into just filling this in. I've got to be careful now because I've got a hand here of the orangutan, and I'm going to paint as much as possible around that. It is loosely painted at the moment, but I don't want to start filling this in white with the colour I'm using. It's kind of a mix of alizarin crimson, some a white I've got from Michael Harding, which is called Warm White, and a little bit of burnt umber from Michael Harding, and I mix those together, and you can see on the palette there, if I just scroll down, there's quite a range of different colours already that I've got mixed. Now this looks a lot more pinky on the screen than it does in real life. There's a real red glow coming off my camera settings tonight, so it's not quite as reddish as it's making out to be on screen. So, there. I'm just going to do a quick check to see if this is going live on Facebook. Yeah, it is, and it's going live on YouTube. Maybe not on YouTube. Yeah, it is. It's going live on YouTube too. Good. Now, quick back to Twitch. Go back to my little channel settings. I said this is just a quick test for me tonight to see if it all works. Yeah, we're all there. That's good. I'm kind of following this on several formats, so I have got it on YouTube. Hi Christine, you're over there on Facebook hiding away. Christine, you're over there on Facebook hiding away. Good to see you. Well, I can't see you, you can see me. So yeah, this is what I'm doing. I've got a little software thing called Streamlabs, and unfortunately it doesn't quite show me all of my multi-chat, so I have to kind of bounce in between them all. What I'm going to do is just close down that one and see if I can open these up in different windows. Hopefully from now on I'll be able to I've got like 4 or 5 different versions of my own voice coming from my headset, so it's a bit disconcerting to figure that out as well. I'm going to work on ArtCat on a Saturday at 2 o'clock in UK time, but I want to kind of pump it out to all the different formats, because I figured I started doing this beginning of lockdown, and what I found was I started off on Facebook. There was a load of people following, and everybody got used to see me on Facebook, and then Facebook rules changed and it became quite difficult to actually post on there, so I decided, okay, I'll go over to YouTube and things like that, but then people didn't follow over onto YouTube. So it became quite a weird kind of, I lost a load of people along in the mix, and I just wanted to kind of bring everybody back together again. So I've got a couple of people watching over on Facebook, which is cool. YouTube, there's a couple of people watching, which is cool. And on Twitch, got me and Ethan. Working class, but yeah, it's working class cross platform as well. That's Ethan over on Twitch. Yeah, it is. It's like juggling cats. But I'm going to carry on with some work. I'm going to hopefully get you a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah. My camo skills are not particularly good. I'm a little bit slicker at this. So hopefully this will start to focus on my hand. There. That's better, isn't it? Right, so I have kind of figured out the structure and form of the hands. This arm of the orangutan is leaning over the top of this hand. There were a couple of hands painted underneath, so it can look a little bit confusing at the moment. I'm just going to overpaint them, but I'm going to block out the shape tonight. This is what I was going to kind of work on, which is basically just giving it a good base colour. And after, say, just a couple of years, I started doing this, and then I kind of got frustrated with the level of quality of my painting that I wanted to improve. So I've been kind of training away in the background, doing different things, and improving some of the styles in the way in which I work. One of them being is how I was painting and setting up, because I'm quite a messy painter, and my palettes would get really confusing, and it would be taking quite a long time just to get colours down, and that's what was frustrating me the most. Thumb comes down around, so I'm not worried about sort of painting the perfect finished rendered hand right now. What I'm doing is looking for the forms and the shapes, getting those right, and just blocking in. This is a bit like an underpainting, just to get the form of the hand right first, and then I can play around with the colour. And note this is all going to be a little bit darker. A bit of highlight of colours. Andrea, when she's modelling for this, she's saying, because Kylie's got a lot more slender hands than Kylie has. I think the mic is picking up your voice from your streams. Oh dear. Thanks, Ethan. I don't know how to switch them off. Maybe if I just switch them off. Or mute them some way. As I say, this is a bit of a test, so bear with us on this. I'm going to mute Facebook. I just want to turn the sound off. Got somebody watching it over on YouTube as well. Hello. Okay, mute my. I could just switch them off, couldn't I? It's a bit of a shame. What if I do that? Hopefully I don't lose. Okay. Let's see. See, stream chat, because this is going through Twitch, I'm only seeing what's being written in Twitch. And if I switch Twitch, so if I can't switch Twitch off, but if I switch the other ones off, I don't get to see what you write, unfortunately, so I have to jump into those formats. What I might do, I wonder if I could open up a different window and just have it muted that way. Possibly. Let's say it's all about working out these little things first, and you've got to kind of do it to find out what works and what doesn't work. So if I do this and open up YouTube, and we do this and open up Facebook. Let's see what happens. Who? Here we are. It's all a bit confusing. It is really difficult to work on 3 different formats and do a live broadcast at the same time. My Facebook one seems... No, it's Facebook one's still there. It's good. Well, okay. Oh, I can turn the sound down. Yeah, I can do that on Facebook. Why can't I do that on... Yeah, I can do that on YouTube as well. I'm stupid. Right, now, so hopefully that would have sorted that out. I can click between the different platforms now, because before I had like 3 different versions of my voice coming through my earphones with a delay at the same time. That's quite off-putting. I'm just going to flick this over to Twitch. There we are. Yeah, it's fixed now. Cool. Thanks for the heads up as well, Ethan, because everybody's very polite and wouldn't have said. So, there we go. I'm just kind of just do an outline of where that hand is, and see when this hand goes underneath this rivet of or rim of the armor, it's gonna get darker. And there is a wrist that comes off of it that would come down as well. So you've got to think about how that looks. Look a bit higher than that as well. So we've got this bit here. This is a lighter area just beside this finger. It's getting quite blocky at the minute. I'm not going to worry about the refinement of it. I just want to get the block down of where these fingers and hands start and stop. Suggestion of light that comes over this knuckle. And same for this one. That is in shadow. There's a little bit of highlight over this little finger which pops out. And the same on this one. As it goes around to this side, it gets light, it gets darker. A little bit lighter there. A little bit of highlight on this bit. This is mostly in light on this finger, and then gets gradually not very dark, but gets gradually darker as it goes up this way to the knuckle. There's a highlight just on here on the knuckle, and the highlight of this finger here is more on this side of the hand. There's a crease just there which is more light, and on the tip comes on this side, and on this part of the thumb, which comes around the front bit here. So it can look a bit confusing when you first start off. So these kind of more basic lights and darks of where things are, they were kind of more helpful. What I'm going to do now is stick a slightly darker tone in, like a mid-tone. So you can see I've got those browns mixed up in the palette. Just down here. Yeah, just on there. So I'm going to make this mid-tone up a little bit. So this is literally about mixing up sort of a very basic dark, well, light, mid-tone and dark, just to block these hands out a little bit. So that camera's not shifting around too much. Tighten it up so it doesn't move. There. There's quite a lot of light on this back hand. There's a bit more kind of the webbed part in between the thumb and the first finger. Not that Andrea has webbed hands. I don't want to say that. This knuckle comes down. It's slightly darker along this section. That contrasts with that little bit of light. It does get darker there. A little bit there. I think this light actually comes around here a little bit more, but very thin here. And a little bit of darkness just in this back finger there. This is much darker. It's the mid-tone of it to begin with. Just take this a bit darker. Same again for this hand. Again, this is just blocking out. I'm not worried about refined detail. I just want to get some basic shapes and basic lights and darks in there. Mid-tones, so I can play around with what works and what doesn't work before I start rendering. Definitely darker along here. And definitely around the back of this hand. It's just about trying to make things look and feel more three-dimensional, give the illusion of the hand and what it's doing, anatomically, how you play around with shapes, which you can do first. When you kind of people go, oh, I have a problem drawing hands. The hands are no more difficult than anything else really. It's about just the forms and shapes. Once you start getting the forms and the shapes right, no matter what colour you painted them, they'll look like a hand. Definitely darker on this. On that part of this finger coming out. And then as it goes under this, there's a thin sliver of a finger there. Bring it down a bit more. I have to go back in and do some more lights in that bit, especially coming out through here. It's not as dark as this, so I'm going to dip back into that lighter area. So you start to see the difference between these fingers and when they're bending round and going into the dark. going to go into much darker tone now. No, it's not when we say darker tone, it's not necessarily black we're looking at. I'll look down here. There we go. So I'm looking at these darker areas here. Not using an awful lot of paint, just painting quite thinly. When you paint with oil paints, you build up from a thin layer to a thicker layer. So it looks a bit weird at the minute because there was a hand there already, and now I'm painting with this hand over the top. It's looking quite confusing, but you see this little finger that I've just put in here? Because there was nothing behind it, it looks more solid than these fingers that are starting to appear. I've also got to then create the illusion that this is sat in these hands, so I have to bring a lot of this angle where there's gaps here. That was a hand before, now it has to be more orangutan. So it's probably going to be their part of their knee. He's got his legs sort of crossed like a Buddha. Could go even darker, you know. Yeah, I think it should. I'll work with what I've got at the moment, but I think I might need to go another tone down just to give me the forms, a bit of form. And this finger is coming over the top of this one. You can see this fingernail and this finger behind it, and then you can see that fingernail coming out there. I'm really painting this in loosely. That is in the right place. This is the back of the hand. Comes in and under what will look like it's going under. I need to build up these whole sort of gauntlet things that you've got on the wrists, which you can't see because it's behind me. Hopefully that might help. This is the gauntlet bit I was talking about. So I'm kind of playing around with the sense of the thumb. Go in there and create a bit more highlight on this little bit. So I'm just looking for forms at the moment. Yeah. There's lots of light that come out the back of this hand. So this area coming across from the part of the thumb kind of joins up to this finger. I talk to myself an awful lot, even if I wasn't doing podcasts. What I might do is just knock this whole area back quite dark, because it's going to be sort of a dark reddish colour, because it's dark reddish brown. It's the colour of the orangutan in shadows. Oh, we can get that to focus a little bit better than it is right now. Right. Right. So, because this part is part of the orangutan behind it, I want to kind of knock that back a bit. So making like a really dark reddish brown. I'm just going to scribble that in. Again, this is a hand that's coming down, holding this baby's hand. So I've got to think about where that will go. And this now becomes part of the orangutan as well. This will become part of the armour. This is the thumb that was going up there. I had it kind of grasping the orangutan, and I wanted to be a little bit more as though the orangutan sat in the palm of a hand and she's almost cupping it rather than gripping it. So again, it looks like quite bloody on there with the camera set up. If I zoom out, it's just helping figure out where that hand comes out. Now this finger is looking quite ghostly, so I know I need to sort of revisit this area again. I'll clean that brush off. You see what it is? Reject modernity and return to the monkey from Dargali on Twitch. Okay, you're not a biologist. Never mind. I don't think it's class it as an ape. An orangutan. I think it's more of an ape than a monkey. Anyway. This is just about finding the form. I'm not worried about. Oh my god, it looks like such a realistic hand at the minute. I just want to find out where the form of this hand is. This looks shorter than it should do, but I think it's purely because this finger's bent and it's not giving the illusion enough because this is too dark. Yeah, I'll have this too far out. This seems to be over here. The turn of this hand is cupped, so these hands can cup a little bit more around the knuckles. Let's see over on. Make sure we haven't lost anybody on Facebook. And what have we got? Why are you trying to look like a hipster? I'm not. This is the look I've always had before hipsters started. I'm not. And I had my beard long before. This is somebody over on. This is Montero Serial over on YouTube asking if I'm a hipster. I'm not a hipster. I had my beard before Game of Thrones started, so much so that where I live in Northern Ireland, everybody I knew with a beard was an extra, and I started to become an extra. So I have got a long beard and long hair for lots of extras work that I do in film and television. Okay, and the reason why I'm wearing the hat is because I've got long hair, it keeps it out of my face, and it's also a little bit more comfortable wearing the headphones. Answer your question? Great. There was one on. Yes, it's always on YouTube that somebody's asking stupid questions about what I look like rather than what I'm doing. Ask any art-related questions. That was a clue in the title if you read it. Ask any art-related questions. That was a clue in the title if you read it. Okay, so over on. I'll just check on Facebook, make sure everybody's still with us as well. I suppose, yeah, Ethan's watching this, he's my son, and he'll be able to tell you whether I'm a hipster or not. Am I a hipster, Ethan? Oh god, if you knew how uncool I was, you wouldn't have even brought that up. Oh god, if you knew how uncool I was, you wouldn't have even brought that up. Ah, Tim. Tim is a good mate of mine. He's over on Facebook. He just said good evening to you too, buddy. Tim is a good mate of mine. He's over on Facebook. Ah, Tim. Tim, Ethan's actually on chat as well, but he's over on Twitch. God, how long ago was it, Tim, that we used to work together? This was 97, 98, something like that. I don't even try and guess how many. Pay no attention to it, but you're fine. Thank you very much, pal. Let's go over on the YouTube, see if he's replied. Probably not, he's probably disappeared. Yeah, well, you needn't stick around. Shame. It's a shame I couldn't sort of combine all the chats as well as the stream, but they haven't figured that. The platforms themselves haven't figured that bit out yet. Yeah, 97, 98. Oh my god. 24 years ago. Jesus. You wouldn't know by looking at us, would you? Tim is a fantastic. If anybody out there is looking for jewellery, he is a fantastic jeweller and horologist. He's Rolex trained. Am I right in saying, Tim? Oh, that's We just put some finger signs of porn over on Facebook. I think that meant peace for Ethan, or is it that for the guy who was talking about me being a hipster? I don't know. One of the two. I'll probably get me banned on Facebook, on YouTube. So apologies if that's upset you. If that has upset you, just let me know not to stream on YouTube. Still playing with these hands at the minute, so just working out lights and darks for different areas. This is a lot lighter. I've got putting out where this hand comes out to, into there. That's where the highlight is, which brings this darker around a little bit. And then it just kind of cuts back in around that knuckle. And it's very much darker around this side. So I'm starting to build up like a tonal effect of my palette going from lights to darks. Because as I mix these colours, I've kind of kept them on my palette where I can kind of see how light moves around a form. I like how Ethan said I was nowhere near being cool. But then I'm not supposed to be I'm your dad. Add a little bit, oh, that sounds weird, a little bit blue. And some of this reddish brown colour will give me a nice kind of dark green purpley colour. Just to kind of sculpt where the edges of this hand actually are going, because this hand goes up like that, almost to this point here. Because from there the wrist falls away and comes down this way, and it's going to naturally fall down where the rest of this wrist is going. So this is the back of the thumb. So you can sort of see the hand coming out, it goes up where the thumb is, this is the back of the hand, and light coming around it. This highlight needs to come down this way a little bit more. But the wrist goes from, this is where the wrist is, needs to follow the forearm as it falls back this way. So if I don't put that mark in to tell you where the wrist is actually going, I can't tell you where the back of this hand is. So this is what I'm kind of paying attention to, is when you're looking at forms, it's not to guesstimate where things are, it's to actually physically look at them and put those marks back in. you know, and sometimes intuitively you're thinking, no, 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 it can't go there, but you do have to follow the form in. Because this, I think, has got too wide. So I think where this was where the back of that knuckle was coming around, and it came up this way. It makes this bit look incredibly thin, but I think I need to move this bit up because that foreshortening of the wrist and the hand, that's where that part of the arm is going to be going up, because I'm changing the position of the hands as well. That'll make more sense when I start rendering some of these other bits in. And I think, yep, this has got too far out again. As the skin kind of drops away from this thumb, comes up to that knuckle, it goes over it a little bit. I'll fill this finger in as well, because this is what I was talking about earlier on, that kind of lost for the sense of where this finger was, because it's still outlined, and also the one behind it. It's just a hint. So start to add a bit more depth to that finger. The lighting on the screen is really off, because it looks like really pink. So I'll have a play around with the settings for the screen. I look really yellow on one camera, and it's bright red and orange and pink, day glue pink, on the other. But I'm starting to build up a sense of where this knuckle's coming out. Again, this is all painted quite lightly, so I'm not worried about trying to be too perfect and trying to get too much detail in the structure of things. I am literally just building up forms first, and then I can refine it from there. Once I'm happy with the form, that's when you go into the refining of rendering. So think about it this way: if you're sketching out, you draw lightly to begin with, and you do the basically what I do with paint and colour here. Kind of figured out forms, but even through doing that, I wasn't quite happy with where everything was. You have to kind of leave your painting flexible, you know, to move things around if you're not happy with them. It's a good idea not to try and do everything in one sitting. Too much if we got kind of focused on how quickly things are done, which must mean they're really good, and it doesn't necessarily equate. Speed does not equal to being good. So you can take your time. Doing things efficiently can speed you up, which can be good. It's a different speed. So you can be efficient painter and accomplished painter, and you're not searching around and playing with things so much is that you're being very methodical, and that methodical nature can take time and practice to build, but it means you eventually become quite a proficient painter, and it speeds your practice up. It's not about speed and painting fast. Some processes require you to paint quickly, so action painters are required to paint quicker. Yeah, those. So it's not like one rule for all things, basically. But in general, you can build up your techniques and your styles and your capabilities. It takes time. It's not about I'm not good because I take ages doing a painting. It should take as long as you need to on a painting. Don't ever be rushed. I'll pull that top bit of the thumb under as well. It's quite straight there. Looking at that. There's a thin line that gives you a bit of a definition between these two fingers. And a very subtle one. Mostly from this knuckle to this finger. This finger, which is such a slither, I've got it coming out too far. It actually stops there. Because it's going down back around, this is cupped around. There's a slight hint of it, of the knuckle, which disappears just there. Not much. So I've got 3 fingers together, 1 separate, 3 fingers together and 1 separate. I can play around with just where this the tip of this finger is. I think I've got a bit thin here. This is a bit wider. This is going to be a lot darker in here, so I just want to kind of differentiate between where the thumb is and where the orangutan is going to be. The same for this side, where this back of the hand, this isn't wrist, that'll be the underside of, you'll see more of the inside of this gauntlet and the forearm. And then it drops away from about there. Oh, this is in darkness. Just going to push this gauntlet around and up a little bit. So this is going to come down. There's lots of decisions making as you go along. Your son sent me. This is over on Twitch. IRO3 Gibrog? I can't quite see what that line says. How do you pronounce it? Looks like a giant octopus. This won't make sense to most people on other chat streams, so people over on YouTube won't have a clue what we're talking about, but because we're on 3 or 4 different platforms, people have different monikers and names on. So they're quite imaginative over on Twitch. Just checking there on their Facebook. I think what I'll be doing from now on when I do this is having 3 or 4 separate windows with the chats open rather than just on one with the tabs. This is quite bluish. I'm starting to see some of the colours now that I'm going to need to kind of play with a little bit. A very basic lightish palette to begin with, and now I can play around with the colours a little bit more. The lights are quite, so the shadows are quite cool, and the hands are more warmish. And the shadows of the hands will be quite nice against the warmth of the orangutan. Is more going to be a little bit more orange than it is. So these cool hands and a warm orangutan will look a bit better. So it's a good idea on your palette as well when you're painting, is to have a warm and a cool version of each colour. really helps. I think when you get used to mixing up your colours, if you try and mix up the colours that you want out of your palette. So if you're trying to look for a green, for example, you know, if you've got a warm and a cool yellow and a warm and a cool blue, and you're mixing variations of those together, and you can darken them and lighten them, you can get more control over the green that you want, rather than going, oh, I have to wait till I get to the shops to buy a big tube of a certain colour of green to put that green into my painting, which costs you a fortune. If you get used to mixing up the colours that you want, you don't need massive amounts of colour on your palette. You have a flexible range of colours, and then you can really develop what works for you tonality wise. And put some of these little darker blue bit in. And again, this is nothing more than just to push that hand back to tell me where this wrist needs to break, and it needs to break up here somewhere for it to come down here and to come up the forearm up here to come out there. So I'm restructuring where this gauntlet's going to be, because I want the gauntlet to be out there somewhere, which is going to give me a bit more of this wrist showing. So it helps whenever you're redoing hand positions as well. It's going to change the format of where the wrists are. If I zoom that back out, you see what I'm talking about. So zoom that back out. Her hands are looking more three-dimensional as you look back at the larger picture. Looks like she's gripping something and holding something. But this part is way too thin because the wrist comes out here a bit more. This is actually where the back of the hand is. So I need to put that in, which means this part of the gauntlet that came around here and was kind of going around the wrist, it needs to come back here to go around the wrist. So if you're moving something, it's got to shift. Now this has to come round now, up and around there. And you can't be afraid to change it. If things are in the wrong place, if you leave them in your picture or your painting, you kind of fudge around the edges, they always look wrong. So I don't want this to look wrong. I have to be more kind of firm with myself and go, no, if this isn't right, shift it, move it, paint it out, scrub it off, do it again. And I'm not afraid to do that. I think that's what was bothering me with the picture, was there was something not quite right about the hands, and the hands weren't quite right because the forearms aren't quite right. So it has a knock-on effect. But once you answer all the questions about what's not right and what does work, that's okay. I think it's the same thing for this wrist here that comes down, and this comes out here, just pushes the wrists out a little bit. You know, so it's going to come down this way, which means this gauntlet is going to come around here, which means I've got more hand and arm to play with now, which makes a little bit more sense. If you have a look at these programs that do restoration programs on their own Sky Arts channel and things like that, sometimes you find them on Sunday afternoon TV and things. Sometimes when they do x-rays of old masters paintings or old paintings, you'll see where artists have shifted positions of arms and hands and things, and in their sketchbooks they'll show you all the working out drawings. But when it comes to painting something on your canvas on the finished version, it's not until you got it in scale and you can kind of work out where things physicality wise are that you find people go, do you know what, it doesn't work with that hand sitting there like this, it needs to be more out a little bit, which moves the position of elbows and arms, and you can sort of see where this arm is going to come out now, and the elbow will come out here a little bit more. This one is going to come up it's going to come up a little bit more. You know, it's going to come out here a little bit more. This will shorten this length. It's not shortening the length of her arm, and this is where the forearm is going to come down, so the elbow is literally there. This arm is coming out a little bit further. So it's going to come out here a little bit more. So again, you kind of have to, where I didn't quite have the form of this right, I'm having to move things around to kind of, I was trying to put the hands in to fit in a gauntlet that what couldn't possibly fit in. I have to move the gauntlet around a little bit, if that makes sense. I'll scribble that in just so I get the idea of where the back of the thumb is, the hand. And as I say, once you start to see all the colours going into these hands and wrists, you realise that there is no pink. There's lots of reds and oranges and blues starting to creep in a little bit. This lovely blue, sort of coolish colour. It's great for the shadows. That's a lot lighter there. I'm getting happier now with where the structure of where that hand is actually going to come out. So this isn't finished by any means. I'm happier now. It looks more messy. But I'm happier now with the structure of the hands. You can probably see it from a distance than you can up close. If you zoom into it, it looks completely crazy and messy. But as you zoom back, they look more physical than they actually were. They look like they're actually holding something, whereas before they were a little bit, I don't know, fake. Might drop this thumb back a bit even. So I'm just looking at the screen, how it looks on your screen there. It is different up close. The colours are they're not as brightly orange. This is more my camera setting coming out on screen. when you get up close it looks incredibly messy, but it's more structural. So if I zoom a little bit closer, you see what I mean? You can see how messy that is looking wise, but it is more tell me where the forms and shapes and lines are going. You can start to see how that hand moves around. So that's what I'm going to keep on working on. You can see this is a bigger portrait. This is almost life-size really, scale wise. So I've got to think about that when I'm looking at things like the hands holding something in front, that they don't start to become these small tiny little hands. They've got to have that physicality to them, so it might mean that it pushes out the elbows. At the minute our arms are very stiff and straight down, and I need to open them out a little bit because that's how you physically stand. Also you're wearing armour, so your arms are going to naturally go out a little bit further, which means your positioning of your hands are going to change. All that physicality needs to go into something that needs to read believable, even though it is a more surreal image that doesn't really exist. You know, Carly never wore a suit of armour, she never held a tiny orangutan. So I've got to think about all those things to kind of make it believable. Hope that helps to make a little bit more sense. I'll keep on doing this, I'll keep on working on this throughout the week. I'm going to call it quits for now though, because it is Sunday evening. I hope you enjoyed that. I kind of enjoyed getting onto all these different formats and saying hello to different people. It's good to see you, Tim. Good to see Christine over on Facebook. The one chap we had, Monterohi, over on YouTube. Weird. That's all I'll say. I just don't get why people say stuff, or it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, he's gone. I mean, could have called me a lot worse. But I just don't see what is the point in that. What's the point of it? I just don't get it. So yeah, over on Twitch, Ethan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Degali, thank you for dropping by, and also your mate Gripdog. Good to see you. Love the octopus you posted up. Looks pretty cool. The other part of my problem is on my monitor I've got this line that goes right through it, so as it cut through everybody's name I couldn't quite see what it said for Gibdog's name, and I'm shifting it around, I can see it. Law Gibdog. Now I know what that means, because it said LOR3 and Ethan just put underneath it law. I get that now, so apologies for getting the name wrong. But yeah, hopefully from now on I will be able to stream this out across all my different platforms. I don't know whether it's best to work from Twitch and cast it to Facebook and YouTube, or work from YouTube and cast it to Twitch and Facebook, whichever one work. I'll play around with those over the next couple of casts that I do. I will always go live on Saturday at 2 o'clock UK time from YouTube, but I'll try and cast that to the two platforms. But if I jump on in between, you know, I might try Facebook casting from there next time and see how it goes. So it was just a quickie today. It was only been an hour and 25 minutes. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for being here. I can click back over onto my Streamlabs now and be able to switch off in one button, hopefully, fingers crossed. So yeah, thanks very much for being here. This is Artcat. My name's Lee Boyd. Come back and you can share this, do whatever you want, subscribe, whatever, whichever makes you happy. If you subscribe over on YouTube, you'll get notifications of when I go live, and the same thing for Twitch and with Facebook as well. You can go to Lee Boyd Artist page, like it, follow it, do whatever you need to, and hopefully get notifications to say when we're going live. Alright guys, thanks very much. See you again soon. Alright.